Mina's confidence continued to grow as she spent more time practicing her singing. The school had announced an upcoming talent show, and she was invited to perform with the choir. The thought of performing on a larger stage made her nervous, but it also excited her. She wanted to show everyone how much she had learned and how hard she had worked. After school, Mina stayed behind with a few classmates to practice. Sarah and Leo were there, helping her with tricky parts of the songs. They encouraged her, clapping when she hit the high notes perfectly. Mina felt her heart lift. She realized that practicing with friends made her stronger and braver. Together, they learned how to listen to each other, blend their voices, and create beautiful harmonies. Mina also spent extra time alone, standing in front of her small mirror at home, singing each note slowly and carefully. She noticed the smallest details, the pitch, the tone, the feeling behind every word. She wanted her voice to be not only correct but also full of emotion. She wanted people to feel the happiness and hope that music gave her. At school, the choir director, Ms. Turner, guided the students through rehearsals. She praised Mina's dedication. "Mina, your voice brings a special light to our choir," she said. Mina smiled shyly. She had never thought of her voice as something that could inspire so many people. She felt proud but also humble, knowing that her work had just begun. As the talent show approached, excitement in the school grew. Posters were put up, students practiced their acts, and the hall was decorated with bright banners. Mina's friends kept checking in with her. "You're going to be amazing," Sarah said. "Just sing like you always do and everyone will love it." Leo nodded. "We believe in you, Mina. You've got this." Despite the encouragement, Mina still felt nervous. She wondered if her performance would be good enough, or if the audience would enjoy it. But she remembered what her mother had always told her. "Courage is not the absence of fear, Mina. It is moving forward even when you are afraid." Mina took a deep breath, letting those words settle in her heart. She realized that her fear was normal, and that it could help her focus and give her strength. During the last rehearsal before the talent show, Mina sang with the entire choir. The music filled the school hall, echoing off the walls and reaching every corner. She could feel the harmony of the group and how her voice added a special layer to it. The other students listened, some with wide eyes, some smiling, all amazed at how beautifully the choir sounded. Mina felt a sense of pride and joy. She knew she had worked hard to reach this moment, and it felt wonderful to be part of something so meaningful. After rehearsal, the choir director came up to Mina. "You have come a long way. Mina, keep practicing and remember to enjoy the stage. The audience will feel your happiness through your voice." Mina nodded, her heart beating fast but steady. She understood that performing was not just about singing the right notes. It was about sharing a feeling, a part of herself with everyone listening. At home that evening, Mina hummed softly as she reviewed the song. She imagined the lights of the stage, the faces of the audience, and the applause at the end. Her small room felt full of music and possibilities. She felt ready. For the first time, she realized that singing could change not just her life, but also the way people felt when they listened to her. Mina went to bed that night with a sense of hope and excitement. She knew the talent show would be a big step, but she also knew she had prepared well. Her voice had grown stronger, her confidence brighter, and her courage deeper. She understood that this performance was not just about showing others her talent. It was about celebrating all the hard work, practice, and love she had put into her music. Mina closed her eyes, smiling. She felt ready to face the stage and share her voice with the world, knowing that this moment could be one of the most unforgettable experiences of her life. The day of the talent show arrived, and Greenwood School was buzzing with excitement. The hall was decorated with colorful banners, and chairs were arranged neatly for the audience. Parents, teachers, and students filled the seats, all eager to see the performances. Mina felt a flutter of nerves in her stomach, but she also felt a spark of excitement. This was the moment she had been preparing for, and she wanted to do her best. Backstage, Mina stood with her choir friends, Sarah and Leo. They held hands briefly, offering encouragement and smiles. "You'll do great," Sarah whispered. Leo nodded. "Just sing like you practiced. Everyone will love it." Mina took a deep breath, trying to calm her racing heart. She reminded herself of all the practice she had done, the songs she had sung quietly at home, and the courage she had built over the past weeks. Finally, it was their turn. The choir director led the students onto the stage. Mina stepped forward, her voice steady but soft at first. The bright lights shone down and the audience grew quiet, curious about the quiet girl in the simple dress who had captured their attention before. Mina closed her eyes briefly and let the music flow naturally. The first note left her lips soft and pure. Immediately the hall grew silent. The sound of her voice filled every corner of the room, floating gently yet powerfully. Mina sang with feeling, letting every note carry the emotion she had practiced for weeks. She could feel the harmony of her friends around her, each voice adding depth and beauty to the song. As the performance continued, Mina's confidence soared. She no longer felt nervous. Instead, she felt joy, the kind that comes from sharing something true and beautiful. The audience was mesmerized. Children leaned forward in their seats, eyes wide, listening closely. Teachers watched in awe, their faces showing surprise and admiration. Parents whispered to each other, impressed by the gentle power of her voice. Even the students who had once teased her were quiet, their mouths open in amazement. They had expected something ordinary, but Mina's voice carried a magic they could not ignore. Her singing was not just notes. It was a story, a feeling, a gentle light that reached everyone in the hall. When the final note faded, there was a moment of complete silence. Then slowly the audience began to clap. One hand at first, then another, until the applause grew into a thunderous cheer. Some students stood on their chairs, clapping and cheering, while others wiped their eyes, touched by the beauty of her song. Mina's heart swelled with happiness and relief. She had done it. She had shared her gift, and it had moved everyone. Mrs. Allen smiled proudly from the audience. The principal, Mr. Harris, gave her a thumbs up. Even the choir director looked at her with pride and admiration. Mina realized that her voice had not only impressed people, it had connected them, made them feel joy and wonder. After the performance, children ran up to her, asking to learn a song or practice together. Parents complimented her, teachers praised her dedication, and friends hugged her warmly. Mina felt a deep sense of fulfillment. She had started as a quiet, shy girl, unsure of herself, and now she had shared her talent with courage, earning respect and admiration. That evening, Mina walked home humming the song she had sung. The sunset painted the sky with shades of orange and pink, and she felt as if the colors themselves were celebrating her success. She thought about how far she had come, from being the quiet new girl who ate lunch alone under a tree, to being the girl whose voice had left the entire school speechless. Mina understood something important that day. Talent alone was not enough. Courage, practice, and a kind heart were equally important. She realized that her voice was more than a gift for herself. It was a gift to share, a way to inspire and bring happiness to others. As she lay in bed that night, Mina smiled softly. She thought about the journey she had taken, the friends she had made, and the confidence she had gained. She knew that this was only the beginning. Her voice would continue to grow, and her songs would touch many more hearts in the future. Mina drifted to sleep with a quiet happiness in her heart. She had discovered that when you believe in yourself and share your gift, even the smallest voice can leave the world amazed. In a quiet town, there lived an old woman named Martha. She had lived in the same small house for more than 40 years. The house had white walls, a small garden, and a wooden bench under an old tree where Martha often sat in the morning sunlight. People in the town knew Martha as a gentle and kind woman. She always smiled at everyone she met, helped neighbors with small tasks, and shared her garden flowers with children who passed by. Even though Martha was friendly and well-known, many people thought she was too old to do anything exciting. They imagined her life as quiet and simple, filled with daily chores and long walks. Martha did enjoy her quiet life, but she also had memories of a younger self who loved singing. Years ago, she had sung at church and small gatherings and even at local festivals. But as time passed, she stopped performing, keeping her voice only for herself. One morning, the town school announced a talent show to be held in the school gym. Students, teachers, and even some adults were invited to perform. The gym was decorated with colorful banners and balloons. The posters around the town encouraged everyone to show their special talents, whether it was singing, dancing, playing instruments, or performing magic tricks. A group of teenagers, who were always looking for fun, noticed Martha walking by the school on her way home from the market. One of them whispered to his friends, "We should ask Martha to sing at the talent show."
That would be so funny.
The others laughed. Yes. Imagine an old lady singing. People will laugh at her, said another. They thought it would be the perfect joke. They did not know that Martha's past included years of singing, and that her voice had never truly lost its charm. To everyone's surprise, the school actually asked Martha to perform. She received the invitation through a polite letter, delivered to her home. Martha held the letter in her hands and read it slowly. The paper was decorated with small stars and cheerful colors, and it said, "Dear Martha, we would be honored if you performed at our town's talent show. Your presence will inspire everyone." Martha looked at the letter and smiled softly. She felt a flutter of excitement in her heart. She had not performed in front of people for a long time, and a small part of her worried about being laughed at, but another part felt alive with possibility. Singing had always made her happy, and now she had a reason to sing again. She sat in her cozy living room, thinking about what she would sing. Martha remembered the old songs she loved, songs that told stories of life, love, and hope. She thought about the music she had sung in church, the songs that had brought tears to people's eyes, and the melodies that had made her heart feel full. A smile grew on her face. Maybe this talent show could be a chance to share her voice again, not for jokes, but to remind people that some gifts never fade. Martha did not tell anyone that she had agreed to perform. She wanted to prepare quietly, without pressure and without anyone's opinions. Every morning she would wake up with the sun, make a cup of tea, and sit in her kitchen with the window open. She sang softly at first, testing her voice. She remembered the feelings that singing brought her: peace, joy, and a sense of connection to the world. Even Whiskers, her tabby cat, seemed to enjoy her singing. The little cat would curl up by her feet, purring with every note. Martha felt happy to have such a quiet audience. With each day of practice, her confidence grew. She realized that it didn't matter if anyone laughed or doubted her. What mattered was the joy of singing, the music that came from her heart, and the memories she carried. By the end of the week, Martha had chosen a song she loved, one that spoke of hope and beauty in simple words. She stood in her small living room, her voice clear and warm, imagining the audience she would face. Martha felt ready. Deep inside, she knew this performance could change more than just her day. It could change the way people saw her, and perhaps the way they saw the value of age, courage, and hidden talent. After accepting the invitation to the talent show, Martha decided to prepare quietly. She wanted to keep her plan a secret. The townspeople often imagined that she spent her days quietly at home, so no one expected her to suddenly appear on stage. Martha liked the idea of surprising everyone. Every morning, Martha woke up with the first light. She made herself a warm cup of tea and stepped into her kitchen, where sunlight streamed through the window. She would hum softly while washing dishes or sweeping the floor. Then she would sit by the small wooden table in the corner and begin to sing. At first, her voice was quiet, almost shy, but as she sang, it grew stronger. Martha chose songs that she had loved all her life. Some were old hymns, others were gentle melodies about nature and family. Each song reminded her of moments long past, times when she had sung in church, in small community gatherings, or just for herself while walking through her garden. Singing was more than just sound. It was a feeling, a memory, and a connection to her own heart. Her cat Whiskers became her little audience. The tabby would curl up on a chair nearby, his green eyes half closed, listening to her voice. Occasionally he would meow softly as if to encourage her. Martha would smile and continue, letting her voice fill the small kitchen. She imagined the sound floating outside the walls of her house, reaching the streets of the town and surprising everyone with its beauty. Martha also practiced in the evenings. After finishing her chores, she would stand in her living room with the radio playing softly in the background. She would mimic the singers she remembered from her youth, trying to match their tone, their rhythm, and their feeling. Her neighbors occasionally passed by her window and saw her singing with closed eyes, her hands moving gently with the music. Some nodded in admiration, but Martha didn't mind. She wasn't singing for them. She was singing for herself and the song itself. Sometimes Martha felt nervous. She wondered if her voice had grown too weak, if people would really listen, or if the teenagers who had joked about her would laugh. But each time doubt crept in, she remembered what her late husband had told her years ago. "Your voice can light up a room, Martha. Never let it fade." That memory gave her courage. She reminded herself that age did not define her ability to bring joy. Martha also began imagining the talent show stage. She pictured the gymnasium, the colorful banners, the audience seated on folding chairs and the bright lights shining down. She pictured the children, the parents, and even the teenagers who had laughed at the idea of her performing. She imagined them being silent at first, curious and skeptical, and then gradually captivated by her song. This vision made her heart race with excitement and determination. As the days passed, Martha's confidence grew. She noticed that her voice became clearer, more expressive, and more confident. Her practice was not just about singing perfectly. It was about feeling the song, telling the story behind it, and sharing that feeling with anyone who would listen. Each day she felt lighter, happier, and more alive. Even the flowers in her garden seemed to join her in celebration. When she sang near the window, the sunlight made the petals shine and the wind carried her music softly outside. Martha felt that nature itself was listening and approving. She realized that preparing for the talent show was giving her more than practice. It was giving her joy, purpose, and hope. By the end of the week, Martha was ready. She had chosen her favorite song, practiced it many times, and felt confident that her voice could reach the hearts of the audience. She still kept her secret carefully, enjoying the thrill of surprising everyone. Deep down, she knew this performance was not about showing off. It was about sharing a part of herself, her memories, and her love for music. Martha felt a quiet excitement, one that made her mornings brighter, her steps lighter, and her heart full. She looked at Whiskers one evening, her eyes sparkling with determination. "Tomorrow," she said softly, "I will sing. I will show them that every voice matters, no matter the age." And with that thought, Martha went to bed dreaming of the stage, the lights, and the song that would soon fill the town with beauty. The morning of the talent show arrived with bright sunlight and a gentle breeze. Martha woke earlier than usual, feeling a mix of excitement and nervousness. She prepared herself carefully, choosing a simple dress in soft blue that matched her eyes. She combed her silver hair neatly and pinched her cheeks lightly, giving herself a small boost of courage. Today was the day she would sing in front of the entire town. As Martha walked to the school gym, she noticed the streets were filled with children carrying colorful posters and parents chatting excitedly. Balloons swayed in the wind, tied to lampposts and fences. The air was full of anticipation and joy. People smiled at Martha as she passed, some curious about why the quiet old woman was dressed so nicely. A few teenagers from the week before were leaning against a wall, whispering and giggling. They had come early, hoping to see her make a mistake. When Martha reached the gymnasium, she took a deep breath and paused at the entrance. The gym was buzzing with energy. Folding chairs were arranged in neat rows, and the stage had bright lights that made it shine like a small theater. Banners hung from the ceiling reading, "Town Talent Show, everyone welcome," and "Show your special gift." The sound of children laughing and talking filled the room. Martha walked inside and felt the eyes of many people turn toward her. Some were surprised to see her, others curious. She smiled warmly, nodding to a few familiar faces. She felt a wave of both nervousness and excitement. This was her moment, and she wanted to make it meaningful. The host of the talent show, a cheerful woman named Linda, called the performers one by one. Children sang songs, played instruments, and performed magic tricks. Each act received applause, and the audience cheered politely. Martha watched quietly from the side of the stage, her heart beating faster. She noticed the teenagers from earlier whispering and pointing at her, smirking. They clearly expected her to be awkward or funny in a way that would make the crowd laugh. Finally, it was her turn. Linda smiled at Martha and said, "And now we have a very special guest. Please welcome Martha." The audience clapped politely as Martha stepped onto the stage. The bright lights warmed her face, and she could see rows of eyes watching her. She held a simple scarf in her hands, feeling its soft texture. She took a deep breath and looked out at the crowd. For a moment, she felt a flicker of doubt. What if her voice was not as strong as she remembered? What if people laughed? Then she remembered the morning she had spent singing quietly at home, the hours of practice, and the words of her late husband. "Your voice can light up a room." That memory filled her with courage. She straightened her shoulders, lifted her chin, and smiled. The room fell silent as Martha began to sing. Her voice started soft and gentle, like a warm breeze. The audience shifted in their seats, listening carefully. Her tone was clear, smooth, and full of emotion. The teenagers who had joked about her stared in surprise, unable to hide their amazement. They had not expected her voice to be so beautiful and so strong. As Martha sang, she imagined the song reaching into the hearts of everyone in the room. She felt the story of the song flowing from her, telling tales of hope, love, and life. People leaned forward in their chairs, captivated by her performance. Even the younger children sat quietly, listening with wide eyes. Some of the parents covered their mouths, surprised by the power and emotion in her voice. Martha closed her eyes and let the music guide her. She moved gently with the rhythm, her hands telling a story along with the words. Each note carried warmth, kindness, and life experience. It was not just a song. It was a piece of her heart, shared openly with the world. By the time she reached the middle of the song, the atmosphere in the gym had completely changed. The audience, which had been polite and cautious at first, was now fully absorbed. People were holding their breath, amazed that the quiet old woman from their town could sing so beautifully. The teenagers who had laughed before were now completely silent, staring at her in wonder. When the last notes began, Martha felt a deep sense of joy. She had not just performed. She had connected with every person in the room. She opened her eyes, looked around, and saw smiling faces, teary eyes, and expressions of admiration. For Martha, that was the greatest reward she could imagine, the knowledge that her voice had touched hearts. Martha's first note filled the gymnasium with a soft, clear sound. It was gentle at first, almost like a whisper of wind through the trees, but it carried a strange warmth that made the audience sit up straighter. People stopped talking, and even the children who were fidgeting in their seats became quiet. All eyes turned toward her, not with curiosity this time, but with attention and awe. At first, Martha's heart beat fast. She could feel the tension in the room. Some teenagers were smirking, waiting for the moment they thought would be funny. But as the second note left her lips, she felt something wonderful happen. Her voice, though aged, had strength and clarity that captured everyone's ears. The laughter that had once been expected evaporated like mist in the sunlight. Her song flowed gently, each word measured and meaningful. She sang about simple things, love, hope, and the beauty in ordinary life. The tune was old, a song she had learned when she was young, but now it carried years of experience, emotion, and life itself. Every note seemed to tell a story, one that only a heart that had lived fully could tell. Martha closed her eyes, feeling the rhythm and melody guide her. Her hands moved slightly, expressing the meaning behind each word. It was as if she was painting pictures in the air with her voice. The audience, captivated, leaned forward, forgetting everything else around them. Parents, teachers, and children all felt the emotions hidden in her song, emotions that had lived quietly in Martha for decades. The teenagers who had originally joked began to exchange nervous glances. Their smirks had disappeared, replaced with a mixture of shock and admiration. One of them whispered to his friend, "I didn't expect this. She's amazing." Martha did not notice them. She was completely absorbed in the music. The words of her song flowed naturally, as if they were written by her own heart rather than on paper. Each note had a softness and power that surprised even her. Singing like this reminded her why she had loved music so much. It wasn't about performing or being noticed. It was about sharing something real, something beautiful that could touch others. The children in the audience were wide-eyed. Some whispered to their neighbors, "Her voice is so nice," while others sat silently, simply enjoying the sound. Even the teachers, who had seen many performances over the years, were clearly moved. A few teachers placed their hands over their hearts, and some quietly wiped their eyes. Martha's voice had a way of speaking directly to the soul, bypassing words and going straight to feeling. As the song continued, Martha began to feel a calm confidence. Her nervousness melted away, replaced by a quiet joy. She realized that the audience had stopped being strangers. They had become listeners, friends, and witnesses to the beauty she carried in her voice. Each note was a connection, a bridge between her heart and theirs. The gym was completely silent except for Martha's singing. Even the rustle of papers, the squeak of chairs, and the shuffling of feet had disappeared. Every person in the room was completely absorbed, holding their breath as her voice rose and fell, guiding them through the story she was telling. The teenagers who had mocked her before now leaned forward in their seats, unable to hide their amazement. By the middle of the song, it was clear to everyone that Martha's performance was extraordinary. Her voice was not just singing, It was sharing memories, hopes, and emotions that everyone could feel. People in the audience exchanged glances, silently acknowledging that this was a moment they would remember. When Martha reached a particularly high note, her voice seemed to float in the air, gentle yet powerful, filling every corner of the gym. Some people felt tears in their eyes, moved by the beauty and emotion of her song. Others simply smiled, feeling the warmth of her words and music. For Martha, this was the moment she had waited for all her life. She was no longer just the quiet old woman walking through the town. She was a singer, a storyteller, and a source of inspiration. Her first note had not only captured the audience's attention, it had captured their hearts. As Martha continued to sing, the audience sat completely still, mesmerized by the sound of her voice. Every note she sang was smooth, clear, and full of emotion. It was the kind of voice that seemed to touch hearts even without words. People began to realize that this quiet old woman from their town possessed a talent far greater than they could have imagined. Her song told a story. Each word carried meaning, and her expression made it feel personal, like she was speaking directly to each listener. Martha moved slightly with the rhythm, her hands and face expressing the feelings behind the music. People began to forget that they were in a gymnasium full of strangers. For a few minutes it felt like they were all in a small, magical room with Martha, listening to a story that only her voice could tell. The teenagers who had once planned to make a joke about Martha could not believe what they were hearing. Their laughter had disappeared completely. Instead, they stared at her in silent amazement. One whispered to his friend, "She's incredible. I didn't expect this." The other nodded, speechless. Their teasing plan had completely backfired, and now they were learning a lesson about judging someone by their age or appearance. Some of the younger children leaned forward in their seats, eyes wide, clearly captivated. They had never heard a voice like Martha's before. One little girl whispered to her mother, "I want to sing like her when I grow up." The mother smiled and held her daughter's hand, realizing that this performance was more than entertainment. It was inspiring a new generation to value talent and courage. Even the teachers and judges were stunned. They had seen many performances, but Martha's singing was different. It was not just about hitting the right notes. It was about emotion, storytelling, and the way she connected with everyone in the room. One judge, a music teacher named Mr. Harris, quietly wrote on his notes, "Her voice carries life and experience. She is extraordinary." Martha noticed the reactions, but she did not let them distract her. She was focused on the song and the feelings it carried. She closed her eyes and let the melody guide her. Memories of her younger days singing in church and small-town gatherings came to her, but now they were richer, filled with years of life and wisdom. Every note she sang reflected her experiences, her joys, and her quiet moments of reflection. The song reached a part where the notes soared higher, brighter, and more powerful. The audience held their breath, captivated by the strength of her voice. Even those who had doubted her at first could not help but admire her skill and emotion. A few parents wiped away tears quietly, moved by the purity and beauty of the music. The room was filled with a gentle magic, a feeling that was hard to describe but impossible to ignore. Martha's performance was no longer just a song. It had become an experience, something the audience could feel in their hearts. Every person, from the youngest child to the oldest adult, was drawn into the music. The laughter and whispers from earlier had vanished completely, replaced by respect, wonder, and admiration. The teenagers who had thought this would be a joke looked at each other, realizing how wrong they had been. They had not understood that talent does not fade with age and that appearances can be deceiving. Now, they were learning an important lesson about respect, humility, and the surprising gifts that people can carry quietly throughout their lives. Martha felt a quiet joy as she sang. She was not performing to prove anyone wrong. She was singing because it was a part of her, something she had carried for decades and now had the chance to share. Every note seemed to carry a piece of her soul, and she could feel the audience responding to it, even if she could not see every heart in the room. By the middle of her song, Martha had won over everyone. People were leaning forward, smiling, or holding their hands together in admiration. She felt a sense of connection she had never experienced before, a bridge of emotion and music linking her to every listener. In that moment, she knew that this performance was more than a talent show. It was a reminder that true talent, courage, and heart cannot be underestimated. As she reached the final part of the song, Martha's confidence grew stronger. She felt proud, not because of the applause that was sure to come, but because she had dared to share her voice, her story, and her heart. The audience was ready to hear every note, every word, and every feeling she had to give. Martha's song had reached its most emotional part. Her voice, soft yet powerful, filled the entire gymnasium. Every note seemed to float gently through the air, touching each person in the audience. She had practiced this part many times at home, but now, performing it in front of everyone, it carried even more life, more feeling, and more truth. The audience listened in complete silence. No one moved, no one whispered, no one fidgeted. All eyes were fixed on Martha. Even the youngest children sat completely still, their mouths slightly open in wonder. Parents and teachers held their hands together or placed them over their hearts, quietly moved by the emotion of her singing. Every note she sang seemed to tell a story about life, hope, and the beauty in simple moments. Martha closed her eyes and let her heart guide her voice. The song flowed naturally, as if it were speaking directly from her soul. She remembered her younger days, singing in church and at small gatherings. But now the song was richer, carrying decades of experience and memories. She thought of her late husband, who had always encouraged her to sing. She felt him beside her, smiling and proud. That memory filled her with courage and warmth. Her hands moved gently with the rhythm of the music, expressing the feeling behind each word. Every motion seemed natural, not rehearsed, but full of emotion. Martha was no longer just performing a song. She was telling a story of her life, her hopes, and the joy of sharing her voice with others. The teenagers who had originally thought this would be a joke were completely silent. Their smirks were gone, replaced with looks of amazement. They whispered to each other quietly, unable to believe what they were hearing. "She's incredible," one said. "I never thought someone could sing like that," added the other. They had underestimated Martha, and now they were learning a lesson they would never forget. The children in the audience were mesmerized. Some whispered to their neighbors, "Her voice is so beautiful." Others simply watched in silence, enjoying every note as if it were magic. Parents nodded quietly, proud to see the young ones experiencing something so extraordinary. Even the teachers and judges were deeply moved. Mr. Harris, the music teacher, leaned forward in his chair, eyes wide. He scribbled notes furiously, knowing that Martha's performance was rare and unforgettable. Martha could feel the connection with the audience growing stronger. The music was no longer just sound. It was a bridge between her heart and theirs. She sang with honesty and emotion, letting the words and melody carry the feelings she wanted to share. Every note seemed to linger in the room, filling it with warmth, hope, and admiration. As the final lines approached, Martha took a deep breath. She let the last note rise and held it steady, smooth and clear. The note seemed to stretch through the gym, wrapping around every listener like a gentle embrace. She slowly let it fade, feeling the silence that followed. The moment hung in the air as if everyone was holding their breath, not wanting to break the magic of the music. Then the gymnasium erupted. Applause filled the room, loud and continuous. People stood from their seats, clapping and cheering. Some shouted words of encouragement, others whistled in appreciation. Martha opened her eyes and saw the smiles, tears, and excitement on the faces of everyone in the audience. Her heart swelled with joy. She had not just sung a song, she had touched hearts, inspired hope, and reminded everyone of the power of music. The teenagers who had planned to make a joke looked embarrassed, but also amazed. They had expected to laugh, but instead they were the ones learning a lesson about respect, talent, and the surprises that life can bring. Martha had proven that age, appearances, or doubts could never limit true skill and heart. Martha smiled softly, feeling proud and happy. She had shared her voice, her memories, and her love for music. It was not about winning or being praised. It was about connecting with people, sharing joy, and inspiring others with her courage and talent. As she stepped back from the microphone, the applause continued, and she knew that this day would stay in the hearts of the audience forever. The song was finished, but the effect of her performance lingered in the room. Martha had reminded everyone that beauty can come from the most unexpected places, and that talent and heart are treasures that never fade, no matter the years.